Hi, I'm Dr. Margriet Barnard, your host of the Birth and Baby Show, brought to you by Sister Lillian Center and Sensitive Midwifery. We empower moms, midwives, and birth workers to have the best birthing and parenting experience through natural, physiological, and intuitive care, resulting in birth and baby advice you can trust. I have with me Sarah Jones, who is a beautiful independent midwife that I gotten to know personally because she also asked me to be her midwife for her birth, which was an incredible honor. However, things did not go as planned, and we are going to be talking about how to prepare for the unexpected when things don't go as planned and you end up with a cesarean section. For Cesarean Section Awareness Month, I think this was a very suitable birth story to listen to, and this will also help a lot of women that has gone through the same, and for the women that are preparing for a natural birth to also prepare yourself for the unexpected. Sarah, I'm so glad that you're here and willing to share your story with the audience. Sarah has got a wonderful story to tell. She's a mother of a beautiful boy and she's also a midwife, by the way, but today she's going to have mommy hat on mostly. Sarah, do you want to say a little bit more about yourself and share your birth story with us?
Okay, so I am a private midwife. I do home births and birth unit births, and then yes, I have a 7-month-old little boy, and yeah, my birth, I initially planned to have a home birth, so that was the plan, and did all the preparation, and then I went into labor at like 37 weeks on the dot, and I think I was a bit taken off guard because I definitely prepared to go overdue, because as we know, first time moms always go overdue, and I think I was in denial for a lot of the initial part of the labor. Like, I don't think I realized I was having contractions probably until about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And then it started to get really intense. The doula came over, and then, so Margriet was my midwife, and then she arrived, I think, at about 6 o'clock in the evening, and we were still in pretty early stages of labor. And then we labored through the night, did all the exercises, did everything that we could. And then early hours of the next morning, we checked again and there wasn't much progress. So we made the choice to transfer to Oxford Midwifery Unit. And I think the plan was that we were hopeful that maybe the drive would make a difference and change things up a bit. But once we arrived at the unit, there was no change and baby's head was still quite high. So we opted not to try the breaking the waters route, and we decided to just go for a C-section. So I think the C-section was a very big process for me, quite a scary process. I still clearly remember sitting on the theatre table and being petrified.
Wow.
And I think it's weird because I see them quite often, but I think for me it was definitely a moment of fear for me. But I mean, from a medical perspective, the Caesar went really well. Baby came out, baby was fine. He was a little bit blue, struggled to transition a bit, but they took baby to the ward with dad and he did skin to skin and he recovered well. And outside of that, I think it was good. It wasn't like a bad experience. It just was obviously unexpected.
Yes, thanks for sharing that. So you obviously had your mindset on a natural birth, that was your desire. You even say a little bit the Caesar would freak you out. Yeah, that was definitely not your plan.
No.
And then in the end you actually did have a good experience because you've been right through it, you've done everything you possibly could. You knew that even as a midwife, you've done every trick that we could to try to get this baby to come out. And then there's obviously a lot of things to process after that, like what could we have possibly done different, and it wasn't a big baby, and what. So let's just backtrack from before you gave birth. Did you actually think that you might have a Caesar, or did it cross your mind ever?
So a C-section was my biggest fear. And I think because of that, I did a lot of emotional prep sort of leading up to the birth. So I read the Birthing from Within book, and then I read a book called The Ancient Map of Modern Childbirth. And what that book tries to do is it really tries to help you to sort of run through an emergency C-section in your mind prior to the birth. And the point of that is to try and get you to have that planned and sorted prior to Labor Day. And I think why that really helped me was that once you've thought about it, you can put that aside and kind of go into the birth without any fear because you've worked through that process. So on Labor Day, I must say that C-section never entered my mind until we really were arriving at the hospital. That was the first time that I was like, okay, you know, we have a possibility of having a C-section. So up until that point, it was never in my mind through the labor process. And then I think what helped in that is that because you had gone through it in your mind, once we made the call to go to theatre, I could really surrender to that process in a lot of ways and kind of just go through the motions. I didn't have to you kind of, until I was on the theatre table, I wasn't like extremely anxious. I just kind of knew that this is what would happen because I'd gone through it step by step in my head prior to that.
Interesting, yes.
And I did do a Connect with Baby and a fear release with one of the doulas named Theoni. So we did one of those as well. So all of that to try and prepare for, you know, if a C-section did happen, that I knew sort of what to picture. And really in the hope that if you'd gone down that path, it wouldn't be, because it was my biggest fear, I didn't want it to be something that I thought about throughout the labor process.
That's very, very interesting because you clearly didn't think of it. So that
Yes.
preparation was quite powerful. And after the whole experience, you had a good experience. It wasn't that you felt all of a sudden traumatized.
No.
So the preparation is quite key. I think it's especially for our moms that are really, really set on natural birth for all the good reasons we know, that this is really important to also go that. You have to go there in your mind before the time and expect the unexpected. We know that there is a small percentage of women that will end up in a Caesar. That is just how it is. It's not because there's anything wrong with you or you haven't tried enough or what. It's those questions you will go through your mind.
Yes.
I'm sure they did.
Yes.
But it happens.
Yeah.
And not to put yourself in jail for it, or the midwife or the doula or anyone, right?
Yeah.
So preparation, emotional preparation is good. And I can see the impact it had on you, the effect it had on you. And then during the Caesar itself, how was that experience for you to welcome your baby? And
Yeah, I think, once I kind of, so the one thing is that obviously the contractions were really intense when we were going to theatre, and the relief when the spinal went in was quite something. I never knew that it would go from like 100 to 0 in like seconds. So that was quite a relief. But I think once that relief hit, then I kind of realized, okay, this is where we were and this is what was happening. So like lying on the theatre table was quite a scary thing for me. I think that surrender, like you have to kind of give everything over to the doctor, and that's why like you really must choose someone that you trust, because I was grateful that I knew that I was in good hands with the gynae and that I knew she would birth baby quite gently through that process as well. So yeah, I never really thought about much until, and then she did say that baby was out, and then I think Dad checked and he didn't realize that only the head was out, so that was quite hectic for him. But it was nice for me to know that baby was birthed gently like that. So the head was birthed and then baby came out after that, kind of like simulating a natural birth, which is what I wanted. And then yeah, I think it just kind of, it does roller coaster after that, because they brought him to me, and I was quite shocked when he was brought to me, like all of a sudden, and he was quite blue and not very responsive. So I think I was a bit like anxious, but I kind of said hello to him, and then he went off with Dad. So yeah, I think that process was quite like, it kind of just happens without you really processing much.
And it goes quite fast, I can imagine. Like you've been laboring all that time, and then all of a sudden it happens so fast.
Yes,
Yeah, sure. And then how did recovery look for you, and bonding with your baby?
Yeah, I didn't struggle. I mean, so he came straight to me. I think the biggest detriment was that they obviously gave me pethidine after the birth. I think I wasn't feeling great and that, so they gave me pethidine, which kind of sedated me quite a bit. So I remember, like, when they wheeled me to the ward, I kind of felt like I was in a bit of like a space station. But I think, like, once I saw him and Dad, like, it's, you know, that you kind of forget that whole process, and it was really great to have him come straight to me, and he latched on and breastfed really easily, which was a great sign. And I think that's what we wanted, to kind of make the choice to do the C-section before we have any complications with baby, so that we can have a decent sort of breastfeeding experience. So yeah, that was great. And then the only thing for me was that I don't think anyone can prepare you for the pain afterwards. So it really was, I did find it quite intense, the pain after the birth. And like, sometimes it feels like it doesn't matter how much medication you take. Sometimes it's just sore. But I think one of the biggest things is making sure you've got support. So hubby had 2 weeks off after the birth. So I really could just focus on resting and taking care of baby. That's all I had to do. And that really helps, because obviously being healthy and fit, that also all helps with the recovery. But you really, I mean, moms need to realize that it is major surgery. So we do need to be mindful of that, and you do need to take time to rest and recover. And I think that's why it took about 2 weeks before I could move properly. But I think because I'd rested in those 2 weeks, it helped a lot.
Yeah, that is really also very important to consider. Yes, and that you have your help out there. It's a big operation. As much as it's quite a common surgery, it is a big abdominal operation that takes time to heal.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. And you had that is often the hard part with emergency cesarean section, because you have it tough before the time. Often with a natural birth, you have got this massive reward afterwards, that you can just get up and go, and breastfeeding is easier and moving is easier. But you had the hard time before and after, and that is often a bit sour, and often can put you, labor can tire you out also. So yeah, well done.
Thank
you.
You
did it both. In the end, it's worth it.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And then your breastfeeding went well, which is amazing to hear. And we know that going through natural birth is, even if you haven't pushed your baby out all the way, just that process of being in labor is so good for babies transitioning and for making breastfeeding better and adaptation to life. So you gave all of that to your baby anyway. So it's not all for nothing, hey, natural birth. Yeah. Any tips that you want to give to the moms out there, and the first-time moms?
I think mainly the preparation. Like I said, like, make sure you work through all the options, so that in essence it's not really that unexpected, because as we know, like, birth is unpredictable. So we really have to kind of go with the flow. But I think if you've worked through certain fears of yours and things like that, then that's not in the forefront of your mind when you're in labor. And then just in terms of recovery afterwards, just make sure you've got all the support that you need. And one of the things that was really interesting that helped me kind of deal with the disappointment really for afterwards was that I listened to a podcast on midwifery wisdom, and they spoke about how this is actually your baby's birth. So your birth happened when you were born. And therefore, like, the woman is really the vessel or the facilitator of this birth. So actually we can't get it wrong in a lot of ways, because this is the baby's birth. And the baby also has choice in the matter. And sometimes, the baby's birth is their first lesson in their lifetime.
Sure.
So we have to like support that as well. And I think realizing that in terms of that I didn't do anything wrong in my labor process, and that's how the birth unfolded, to surrender to that process is important.
Wow, that is quite a beautiful perspective. Yes.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for being willing to share and
Pleasure.
also share your pearls of wisdom that you've gained through this whole process. I'm sure it will also affect your professional work as a midwife.
Yes, yeah.
How has that been?
Yeah, fine. Yeah, I think it's maybe helped quite a bit. I think it helps to process because obviously I'm exposed to birth quite a lot. So, I mean, you don't deal with a disappointing birth like overnight. So it really helps to see it often and helps me to realize that like sometimes I'm not the only one that's obviously gone through this process, and also been able to have a lot of empathy towards my clients, because I think when you're a midwife and you make a decision to go to theatre, it's a medical decision. Like you need to go to theatre for these reasons. And as a mom, you don't really want to know the medical reason. Like you still want the natural birth, but it's easy to make that decision as a midwife sometimes. But so it's helped me to be empathetic towards those who have an emergency Caesar, because yes, we know the medical reason, but it doesn't take away the hurt that you can't have the natural birth.
Yes, that is so good. Yes, so true. So with that said, I hope that you also will have more empathy for all the mummies that have gone through emergency Caesars. And we still all pro-natural.
Yes.
But I love it that you are a midwife and you're still a midwife. You believe in midwifery and a natural birth. But this is so part and parcel of midwifery and of birth. So yeah, so many lessons that we can take from your story. I'm sure there's many more reasons for why you went through all of this that you will discover. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome.
Great.
Hope you enjoy that, and please share with everyone that you think will benefit from this. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you enjoyed this video, please share this with a friend who will benefit from this. And remember to subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you can be notified whenever we release new videos like this on our channel. We'd love to stay in touch and keep you updated with all our latest content and resources to equip and empower you. So if you're a midwife or any type of birth and baby worker, go to sensitivemidwifery.co.za/free gift. If you're a mom, visit sisterlillian.co.za/free gift for more training and resources. That way we can keep you up to date when we release new episodes like this, plus a few other bonuses. You can also find the links I just mentioned in the show notes. Remember, you're making a big difference because you are shaping the future of humankind. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to journeying with you.